Let's get straight to the point. You're standing in the Tower of London, and the woman kneeling before you is Anne Boleyn, the Queen. She's wearing a grey damask gown and a red petticoat. The colours won't matter in a minute. She's praying, or pretending to. Your sword weighs nothing. You've done this enough times that muscle memory takes over. But your hands are shaking anyway, because executing a queen means something different than executing thieves. It means you're useful enough to live, for now. But before you understand how you got here, you have to go back. You grow up in Calais, English territory, French blood. Your father's a butcher. By 15, you're better with a blade than he'll ever be. The work is honest, the pay isn't enough. When the recruiter comes through looking for a swordsman willing to relocate to London, you see the opportunity for what it is: escape. You don't ask what the job entails. You already know. Death is death, whether it's pigs or people. The Tower's hiring process is refreshingly direct. They hand you a sword and a condemned man. Treason, they say. The specifics don't matter. You take his head off in one stroke. Clean. Professional. The warden nods. You'll do. Welcome to the most secure job in England. Voluntary resignation doesn't exist. The early work is routine. Common criminals mostly. Thieves, traitors, the occasional priest who backed the wrong theology. You learn the rhythms of the place. The stone, the cold, the way screams echo differently depending on which tower they come from. You're good at compartmentalizing. Every executioner is. You tell yourself stories. They're guilty. They deserve it. You're just the instrument. Sometimes the stories even feel true. Then the king's marriage troubles begin. First, it's just rumours. The court whispers that Henry wants to annul his marriage to Catherine. Marry Anne Boleyn instead. The Pope says no. Henry says yes anyway. You don't care about theology or politics. You care about keeping your head attached to your shoulders. But you start to notice things. More arrests, more trials, more executions. The criteria for treason keeps expanding. Disagreeing with the king becomes a capital offence. Speaking against the new marriage becomes suicide. You meet Thomas Cromwell once, the king's enforcer. He watches you work with the detached interest of a man evaluating capital equipment. Efficient, he says. The king appreciates efficiency. It's not a compliment, it's a performance review. You nod and say nothing. Cromwell notices people who say too much. The work intensifies. Monks who won't surrender their monasteries. Nobles who backed the wrong faction. Anyone who called Anne Boleyn a whore in public. And several who said it in private. You're executing 2-3 people a week. It's a brutally efficient meritocracy. The king's favour is the only job security that exists, and even that expires without warning. You get good at reading the condemned. Some rage, some weep, some go silent. The smart ones make peace with it fast. There's no appeals process in Henry's England. You respect the ones who face it clean. The begging ones make it harder. Not morally harder, technically harder. Fear makes people move. Then they tell you about Anne, the Queen, arrested on charges of adultery, incest, treason. The specifics are obviously fabricated. You've seen enough show trials to recognise one. But that doesn't matter. The king wants her dead. When the king wants someone dead, they die. That's the entire business model. You're just the subcontractor, but here's the thing. They bring in a specialist from France, a swordsman from Calais, your hometown, to do the execution. For a week you think you're being replaced, demoted, possibly next. Then you realise the truth. They want the French swordsman because a sword is cleaner than an axe, faster, more merciful. Henry wants to give Anne a good death. It's the only kindness he has left to offer. You watch the French executioner practice. He's good. Better than you, maybe. He's been brought in specifically for this. One job, maximum visibility, then back to France with a fat payment. No emotional attachment, no history. Just a professional completing a transaction. You feel something strange, relief. You won't have to kill a queen. Someone else carries that weight, but you're still there. You're always there, supporting caste in every execution. You help prepare the scaffold. You manage the crowd. You ensure the logistics run smoothly. In the court of a king, everyone's complicit. Distance doesn't equal innocence. The morning comes. Anne walks to the scaffold like she's walking to mass. Composed, regal, she makes a short speech praising the king. Required protocol, everyone knows it's scripted. She removes her headdress herself, kneels, closes her eyes. The French swordsman is fast, one stroke. She doesn't suffer. The crowd is silent. Then someone starts praying. Then everyone does. You've seen hundreds of executions. You've never seen this. Collective horror, collective guilt. The realization that if a queen can die for fabricated charges, anyone can. You go back to work. 2 weeks later, Henry marries Jane Seymour. 3 years later, Jane dies in childbirth. 3 years after that, Henry marries Anne of Cleves, then annuls it. 6 months later, he marries Catherine Howard. You execute her 18 months after that. Same charges as Anne Boleyn, same scaffold, same outcome. The pattern is clear. Henry collects wives like other men collect debts. When they stop being useful, he liquidates the asset. You keep working. You're exceptionally good at your job. That's the problem. The better you are, the more essential you become. The more essential you become, the more you see. The more you see, the more dangerous you are. You know too much. You've seen too much. Every execution is a secret you carry. Cromwell falls in 1540, executed on charges you know are false. You don't attend, they use a different executioner. Deliberately inexperienced. It takes 3 strokes. You hear Cromwell was screaming. Professional insult aside, you understand the message. Even the king's most loyal servants are disposable, especially them. The years blur. Henry grows fat, paranoid, diseased. His leg ulcer never heals. The smell precedes him. He marries Catherine Parr, his 6th wife, and by some miracle, she survives him. Henry dies in 1547, obese, tyrannical to the end, convinced of his own righteousness. You outlive him. You retire under Edward VI, Henry's son. Modest pension, small house, no family. Who would marry an executioner? You spend your days in silence. People avoid you in the market. Children cross the street when they see you coming. You're a reminder of what England was, what it could become again. You dream about Anne sometimes, not the execution itself, the moment before. Her eyes closed, her lips moving in prayer, the strange dignity of someone who knows exactly how much time they have left. You think about Henry's other victims, the monks, the nobles, Catherine Howard, barely 20 when you helped prepare her scaffold, Thomas More, John Fisher, the list is endless. You didn't make the decisions, you just implemented them. Every executioner tells themselves this story. It's never quite enough. The most ironic part? You were good at your job because you were fast, merciful. You prided yourself on clean kills, minimal suffering. You told yourself that mattered, that you were reducing cruelty in a cruel system. But speed doesn't change the body count. Mercy doesn't resurrect the dead. You're 73 when you die, natural causes, quiet death in your sleep, more than your victims got. On your deathbed, you think about that morning in the Tower. Anne Boleyn kneeling, the French swordsman raising his blade, the collective intake of breath from the crowd. The silence after. You were standing 6 feet away, close enough to see her hands trembling, close enough to hear her final prayer, too far away to stop anything. That's the job description, really. Professional proximity to atrocity. You were never the villain of the story, just the supporting cast, the reliable functionary who kept the machinery of power running smoothly. And somewhere in England right now, there's another young man learning to use a blade, another recruiter making promises about steady work and good pay, another executioner being trained. The machinery doesn't stop. It just gets new operators. Let's get straight to the point. You were the executioner, but in Henry's England, everyone was complicit. You just held the sword.